All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty amazing, how some really advanced AI is helping to solve one of our oldest challenges, how we grow our food. We're going to take a trip to Bangladesh to see how technology is handing farmers a powerful new playbook for dealing with a changing climate. Okay, let's get into it. Just think about that for a second. What if, instead of just going by tradition or your gut feeling, the land itself, the actual soil, the weather patterns, could give you a clear, data-driven recommendation on the absolute best crop to grow? That's the wild idea we're digging into today. But, to really get why the solution is such a big deal, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the problem. For farmers in Bangladesh, this isn't just a job. It's a high-stakes gamble, and the stakes are getting higher every single year. And here's why that matters so much. We're not just talking about one industry here. Agriculture is the absolute backbone of the country. It's how almost half the workforce makes a living. So when farming is in trouble, believe me, the whole country feels it. Look at this number, 913,813. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but that is the number of metric tons of crops that were lost just to floods in a single year. That was back in 2017-2018. Nearly 1 million tons of food and income just gone, wiped out. And this table really shows you what these farmers are up against. It's total volatility. Just look at those wild swings in rainfall and that steady creep upwards in temperature. For a farmer, this isn't just data on a chart, it's chaos. It means that everything their parents and grandparents taught them about when to plant is becoming less and less reliable. And that's really the heart of it. You have generations of hard-won knowledge that are basically getting obsolete in real time. The climate is just changing way too fast for those traditional methods to keep up. And that puts food security at serious risk. So you've got all this unpredictability. How do you fight it? Well, you fight it with precision. And that brings us to this whole new way of thinking called precision agriculture, which is all about swapping out guesswork for cold, hard data.
Basically, the whole idea is to stop making assumptions and start knowing. It's this huge shift away from farming based on, what worked last year, to farming based on specific, real-time info that's coming directly from your own field.
And the researchers broke this down into 3 really simple steps. First, you sense. You use sensors and weather data to figure out what's actually happening in the environment. Second, the AI analyzes all that information, looking for patterns humans could never see. And third, it recommends a specific crop. It turns all that messy, complex data into one simple, clear action for the farmer.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do you actually build something like this? What does it take to create what is essentially a digital agronomist from the ground up? Let's pop the hood and take a look.
The easiest way to think about it is like a person. You've got the senses. These are the actual physical IoT devices out in a field, gathering data from the soil, from the air. And then you have the brain. That's the AI model that takes in all that sensory info and, makes a decision.
And get this brain is ridiculously smart. When the researchers tested out different AI models, the top ones were all incredibly accurate. We're talking over 95%. The stacking SVC model just barely squeaked out a win, hitting a crazy 95.9% accuracy on predicting the right crop.
Okay, but this brings up a huge question, right? That level of accuracy is great, but if the AI just spits out an answer like plant corn with no explanation, how can you trust it? This is the classic black box problem with AI. How do you know why it made that choice? So, to crack open that black box, they use this really cool tool called Lime. It basically lets the AI show its work. So for instance, when the AI recommended jute, Lime shows us exactly why. It says, hey, I saw high rainfall and low potassium, which are great for jute, but I also saw high humidity, which is a point against it. And that kind of transparency is absolutely crucial for building trust.
So what about the senses? Well, the hardware is actually surprisingly simple. The whole thing runs on a Raspberry Pi 5, a tiny little computer. That's connected to this powerful 7-in-1 sensor that reads all the vital nutrients right out of the soil. It also pulls real-time weather data through an API, and all that info gets displayed on a simple dashboard for the farmer to see.
And now for the kicker. The price tag for this whole setup, $297 US. That's it. And this is what's so amazing. We're not talking about some million-dollar supercomputer. This is a practical, affordable tool that's actually designed to be used in the real world.
So we've got a brain, we've got senses, it's cheap to build. It seems like it should work. But does it? When the rubber meets the road, how does this system actually perform out in the wild?
And this is where things get really interesting, because you run into a classic engineering trade-off. See, the most accurate model wasn't the fastest. That stacking SVC model was super accurate, yeah, but it took almost half a second to make a prediction. The random forest model, on the other hand, was just a tiny bit less accurate, but it was 7 times faster. For a tool you need in the field, that speed is everything. So they went with the faster one.
So after all of that, the sensors, the weather data, the competing AI models, this is what the farmer actually sees. All that complexity gets boiled down in a fraction of a second to a single clear word on their screen. Prediction. Jute. It's science simplified.
But look, tech is only great if the people who need it actually want to use it. So what did they think? Well, farmers and researchers gave it top marks for how clear the interface was and how fast it worked. But you can see they flagged accuracy as the one area that needs some more work, and that's super valuable feedback.
So, where does this all lead? I mean, this prototype is an amazing peek into the future of farming, but it also shines a light on some of the big challenges that are still out there.
And the researchers were really honest about this. The system was trained on data from one specific area. Can it work everywhere? It knows about major crops, but what about smaller, more local ones? And can it deal with things like a freak hailstorm that hits one farm but not the one next door? These are the really tough problems they have to solve next.
But even with those hurdles, the potential here is just massive. The study wraps up by calling this thing what it is, a decision support tool. One that gives farmers insights that are critical not just for them, but for sustainable farming and food security all over the world.
And that really leaves us with this one big question to chew on. As our climate gets more and more chaotic, is this kind of technology, a digital brain for every farm, going to shift from just being a cool gadget to being an absolute necessity for survival? It's a question we might all have to answer a lot sooner than we think. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.